I'll take a double espresso latte, de-phrased, frappiano with distilled water with cows that are raised by organic goats in heaven. And on the side, I mean, I never heard anything like this. Never. It's San Francisco to a T, which is why I love it so much. But here we are near July 4th already. And we got the Chinese restaurant story, the Japanese, the Thai. And, you could say no goo if you want. Say no oil and no sugar. But you know what you get instead. You get horse glue. If you say you don't want no oil, you know what you get in the dish instead. Extracted hoof from like a slaughterhouse horse is what they give you if you're not careful. You got to be careful, too, what you say. Because they're controlling what's going in your mouth. You're low oil. Okay, we'll give them low oil. Get the shoe glue from the dead horse in the back. Kansas City, Mike, welcome to the Savage Nation.
Hey, Mike, I hear you asking if you complain too much, and I've been making an observation for some time now that really bothers me, and I just was wondering if you've made it too. I walk into an Asian restaurant, and I can always tell a table full of liberals, even before they even utter a single word about the woes of the world and how terrible it is that people have the right to be miserable. But they'll order their food, and then they'll ask the waiter, who probably grew up in America and has never even been to China. They'll ask him, how do I say that in Chinese?
Oh, God. Oh, to show that they're in solidarity with the immigrant. I love that.
Then they'll get their chopsticks, and because they'll have to ask for them because the flatware.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's to show that they're politically able to use chopsticks.
Yeah. So then they get out their chopsticks and they rub them together to try to take off all the splinters and everything.
Yes.
So I've never actually seen an Asian do that.
Yeah, even though I've never seen a splinter on a chopstick, they heard about it in 1971.
Yeah. And so then, while they're doing this, they're completely oblivious to the fact that there's a table full of staff from the restaurant sitting there and using forks to eat their lunch. Meanwhile, the waiters...
But you must live near a university town for this to be going on. These are classic university behaviors.
Exactly. Yeah. And then on top of that, the waiters, the only reason why they're speaking Chinese is because they're mocking these liberal dummies because they look like little kids because they're dropping food all over themselves and the table and the floor because they don't know how to use the chopsticks.
And the waiters are laughing about them and goofing on them in Chinese.
It makes me so disgusted. It's just disgusting.
Well, but look, Mike, you got to do what the last caller said. You just got to go there and watch the human comedy. I mean, liberals are the most laughable subpopulation in America. They don't understand it, but everyone else is laughing at them. They're social freaks because of their hypocrisy and their childishness.
Yeah, you were talking about how they talk about politics.
But your people over there that lives in Kansas City in a Chinese restaurant, do they generally bow when they walk in? Don't they give a short little bow and their hands together?
I've actually seen that once.
Only once. How about when the waiter gives them a glass of water? Do they all say thank you 50 times for the glass of water?
Oh, yeah, but not only that, they have to have hot oolong tea on a 110-degree August day.
Oh, well, that's appropriate. What about the napkin? When the waiter gives them the napkin, don't they all bow and say thank you 50 times? Oh, thank you. Oh, so everything the waiter does, they give them a thank you. And when they pay, they say thank you to the owner of the restaurant. Instead of the owner saying thank you to them for the business, they thank him for letting them in the restaurant. How about that one?
Well, Michael, the last time this happened, it was a date, and this guy was doing it to show off to his date. And at the end of the meal, after having to watch this and listen to his rhetoric and how happy he was about all the politics and everything that's going on, even though he seems to understand politics, but he can't even use a pair of chopsticks. After the meal was done, we both went up to the cashier to get to pay for our meal at the end. And I asked him. He didn't know. He didn't know that I knew the owner, and I've known him for years. But I asked him how he liked the restaurant, and he said, "Oh, it's great." And I said, it used to be smoking, but it's not anymore. And I said, so they didn't actually have to participate in the smoking ban. And I said, it's a good thing that smoking ban finally went through, huh? And he said, yeah, I voted for that. And I was like, yeah, I figured that. Well, I find your speech as offensive as you found people smoke. I don't want to listen to your political rhetoric when I'm eating my meal.
Oh, really? What did the guy say to that?
He just sat there and stared at me. And I was just like, whatever, paid my meal and went out.
Here's the last question of the day. Ask your friends in the Chinese restaurant what % of the bill is tipped by liberals. What % tip they leave?
Oh, yeah. You know what? I heard you say that once, and I asked them that because I was curious. And, yeah, they're pretty stingy.
Usually libs give a maximum of 8 or 9%. That's if they're not caught, if they don't run out of the restaurant entirely and leave it to somebody else.
Yeah.
They're the worst tippers in America, are the ones who are the most socially progressive. They're the biggest cheats in the country. But that's neither here nor there. We got bigger problems than that. Latest came out is the president, so-called, of Honduras, who the people threw out because he was a bum and a dictator, who Chavez supports, who Obama supports, who Hillary supports, who Castro supports. That president, that man that our president supports, has just been linked to drug ties. When I'm off the air, what matters to me, sure, I get steamed up over the news, but inevitably I have to stop it because nobody wants to listen to it. They can't take it. They cannot. So if I go to a restaurant, which I do, unfortunately, more than I should, I mean, I love food, so what am I going to do? You can't cook every night. I have to move tables, or I go to a hotel. I don't go anymore. I used to when the kids were young. I'd move rooms. We were talking about that. And I asked you, do you mind me telling you about it? And I got such wonderful callers that really, I mean, they were great listening to. I could see why you like listening to me, because I'm not the only one who does this. I think that everybody would like to have the guts to do it, but they don't have the nerve to do it. It's not that they don't know that the table's bad or that the food stinks. It's not that they don't want to bother. They don't want to upset themselves and everyone around them, so they don't do it. It doesn't mean that you're a bad guy. But I think if more of us demanded better service, better food, I think there'd be less to complain about. I really do. I'll give you a little example, a minor example. Let's reduce it to the real Lilliputian level. Since I can do nothing about the Marxist Party USA under Obama, I can do a lot about which seat I have in a restaurant and what food I get, all right? Now, I don't go out of my way to make a trouble. I don't want trouble. I'll give you an example. There's a hole-in-the-wall Thai restaurant near where I live, a dump of the lowest order. But it's clean. The owner's a nice guy. I've watched his daughter grow up from the time she was a kid to college age. See, you know, there's a little hole in the wall. I patronize it once a week, whatever. The food is actually very good. And when I go in there, it reminds me of being in the third world, which I like. It reminds me of my years as being a poor graduate student in Fiji. I sit in the back. It's got ugly mirrors like from a museum with palm trees in it. It's so retro bad that it's refreshing because they don't try to be what they're not. You know what I mean? There's no orchids on the table. It's like oilcloth with plastic, but him and his wife cooks, and he has no personality whatsoever. One of the most personality-less owners I've ever seen in my life. He probably owns the entire shopping center. All right, so I go in there. I got tired of everything else. I go in there. I got into a Thai jag. I went already twice in a row last week. So I said, well, I'm going nuts. So the next day I figured I would be really wild, and I order a takeout dish. That's after he knew me now. Every time I go and he says, someone wants to buy you a six-pack of beer, and I say to him, no, thank you, I don't need it, blah, blah, blah. I go in there. I eat a good meal. The next night I don't want to go out, so I call up and I say, it's me, how you doing? I order a takeout dish. He cheats me again. It's half the size. So I started to steam up. I said, what's wrong with this man? When I'm in there, he says nice things to me, gives me a nice dish. He cannot help it. If you order takeout, you get half the size. You get half the size. 1 shrimp, 2 shrimp maximum. In a shrimp dish that costs $10.95. And if you order the chicken curry, it's about a piece and a half of chicken that must cost them a nickel, if that much. So I said to myself, should I call this jerk and tell him, or should I just let it go and not eat there anymore? And I said, wait a minute. I like the guy's food. I couldn't help myself. I call him up. And I say, hey, Johnson, listen to me. This is Michael. How are you? I said, you just cheated me on a takeout dinner. He says, oh, no. I said, oh, yes. He said, I told the cook it's for you. I said, well, she screwed me. She gave me 2 shrimp and a piece of chicken the size of my thumb. No, he says. And I say, yes. And I said, the reason I'm calling you is because I like you. And I said, if you do this to people who you know, you're going to have no business left. I said, but you're not going to see me for a long time. All right, so maybe I shouldn't have done it. Why must the man cheat me on takeout dinners? Why is it in general I find that takeout food they give you a screwing on? Why is that? They don't know you? If you're ordering takeout food and you tell them who you are, they should give you more, not less. They can't help it. There's something going on in restaurants. Maybe they're desperate. I don't really know. But today, I'll tell you, I got the opposite. There's a Japanese in the neighborhood that I ordered from, usually good. They gave me a screwing about a week ago. I called them screaming because they're always too busy. They're always yelling. So I said, slow down. I'm trying to order dinner. Stop screaming. I ordered a dinner. There was no seafood. It's called a seafood yaki udon. It was yucky udon, let me tell you that. It was seafood yucky udon. There was like nothing in it except greasy vegetables. So I complained. So today I called for this order. There's Franken complaining. Yeah, walk. He was never a Republican anyway. Why do I care what he does? He's got a weird-looking face, doesn't he? What's his name? Coleman. Coleman is as weird-looking as Franken, I got to tell you the truth. Coleman's face looks as weird as Franken's face. Matters to me who wins in Minnesota. They deserve Al Franken in Minnesota.
Savage. Michael Savage.
Afternoons 3 to 7.
On Talk 910 KNEW.
And online at 910knew.com.